Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive to help you crush those UPSC exams?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Today we're tackling a topic that's super relevant for both mains and prelims.
Yeah.
The SVAMITVA scheme.
Yes, this one's a biggie.
You might have heard the Prime Minister talking about, unleashing the potential of rural India.
Right.
And that's exactly what this scheme is all about.
It all boils down to a pretty fundamental idea. Property rights. You see, the PM often talks about this concept of dead capital, right?
Yeah.
He's even mentioned a UN study and a book by a leading economist to sort of back this up.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, the idea is that when people don't have clear ownership of their assets, it's almost like having a car but no title.
Right, right.
You can't really use it to its full potential.
So how does SVAMITVA fit into all of this?
Good question.
I know it has something to do with like land ownership in villages.
Yeah, you got
But
one.
what's the big picture?
So SVAMITVA stands for Survey of Villages a Body and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Areas. It's basically using modern tech, like drones, to map out the Abadi areas, which are the inhabited parts of villages.
Okay.
And this creates these really accurate maps that clearly show property boundaries.
Oh, so it's like giving these villages a high-tech property survey.
Exactly.
I can see how that'd be helpful, but how does that translate into actual ownership, legally?
Well, that's where the magic happens. The scheme goes beyond just mapping.
Okay.
It actually provides villagers with legal ownership cards. Think of them as like title deeds.
Okay, yeah.
These cards act as a record of rights, officially recognizing their ownership.
So it's like finally giving them the legal paperwork to say, this is mine.
Precisely. And this is why the PM has called this a total game changer for rural India.
Wow.
In fact, in a recent speech, he announced that something like 65 lakh property cards have already been given to owners in over 50,000 villages.
Really?
Yep, across 230 districts. Wow. That's amazing. He also highlighted that a massive 2.25 crore people have benefited from getting these legal property documents so far.
Wow, those are some serious numbers.
It is.
Sounds like this scheme is already making a real difference on the ground.
Absolutely. And what's even more impactful is that this is specifically benefiting vulnerable groups like Dalit, backward, and tribal families, giving them a level of economic security they might not have had before.
This is really starting to sound like almost a textbook example of a government initiative that addresses economic challenges, but also like promotes social justice.
Yeah, for sure.
I can definitely see why this would be so important for UPSC mains, especially when it comes to topics like rural development and land governance.
You're spot on. And for those prepping for prelims, keep in mind that questions about the scheme's features, objectives, and implementing agencies, those could definitely pop up.
Okay, so we've established that this scheme is making waves. But how big of an impact are we talking about here?
Well, PM Modi threw out a pretty staggering figure in his speech.
Oh,
He estimated that if the scheme is implemented nationwide, it could unlock a potential 100 lakh crore worth of economic activity.
100 lakh crore.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of zeros.
A lot of
It
zero.
really highlights the scale of what we're talking about here.
For sure. And all this information, by the way, comes straight from the Press Information Bureau, or PIB,
Ah, the PIB, yes.
which, as you know, is like a gold mine for UPSC aspirants.
Absolutely. So not only is this topic super relevant for your exams, but we're also feeding you the most credible and up-to-date information to help you ace those questions.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, let's dig a little deeper into how exactly this scheme is being implemented on the ground.
Right, because it's not just about handing out cards.
Right.
There's a lot of technology and groundwork involved. Remember those drone surveys we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, they're not just for creating maps. They've also led to the creation of something called Aadhaar.
Aadhaar. What is that?
Think of it as Aadhaar, but for land.
Oh, okay. Like a digital ID for land.
Exactly. It's a unique land parcel identification number, or ULPI, assigned to each piece of property. It's like a digital fingerprint for every piece of land.
Oh, wow.
It helps to create a more transparent and efficient land management system.
So not only are these villages getting clear ownership rights, but their land is also getting this digital upgrade.
Precisely. And just to give you an idea of the scale, PM Modi mentioned that a whopping 23 crore Aadhaar numbers have already been issued.
That's incredible. It sounds like this scheme is really bringing rural India into the digital age.
Absolutely. And the best part is that nearly 98% of land records have been digitized across the country.
Wow, 98%?
Yeah. The drone surveys have been completed in over 3.17 lakh villages, which is like 92% of the target.
So they're close to achieving full coverage.
They're almost there.
That's fantastic. Are there any regions that are already fully digitized? Just out of curiosity.
Oh yeah, for sure. PM Modi highlighted Puducherry, Tripura, Goa, and Haryana.
Okay.
They've achieved complete saturation with drone surveys, setting a great example for the rest of the country.
That's impressive. It shows that this technology can be adopted pretty quickly and scaled up effectively.
Yeah, and that's what makes the SVAMITVA scheme so remarkable. It's not just about solving current problems, but about building a foundation for a more prosperous and empowered rural India.
It's like a domino effect of progress.
Yeah.
And it's all starting with something as simple as ensuring clear property rights.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a compelling topic for UPSC aspirants. It really embodies the spirit of innovation, inclusivity, and sustainable development that's at the heart of India's growth story.
Hmm. It's like a case study in good governance and effective policy implementation, something I'm sure the UPSC examiners are always looking for.
For sure. Now remember, we've only scratched the surface here. There's so much more to unpack about the SVAMITVA scheme.
Right. And that's where you come in, dear listener.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to delve a little deeper into the source material from the PIB and any other relevant government publications.
Yes, definitely do that.
And as you explore further, think critically about the potential challenges of implementing a scheme of this scale. What are the potential roadblocks? How can they be overcome?
That's a great point.
Because the UPSC isn't just about memorizing facts and figures.
No, not a bit.
It's about, showing your ability to analyze, evaluate, and form your own informed opinions.
Exactly. So here's a thought-provoking question to leave you with. What other innovative solutions could be implemented to further address the challenges of rural development and unlock even greater economic potential across India?
That's an excellent question to ponder as you continue your UPSC preparations. And we'll be back soon with more insights and analysis, so stay tuned.
It's almost like we're giving these rural communities this toolbox filled with opportunities,
Yeah.
but it's not just about those immediate benefits. What I think is really fascinating is how SVAMITVA could totally revolutionize land administration in India.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, think about it. We've been relying on these outdated and often inaccurate land records for decades,
Oh, yeah.
leading to all sorts of disputes and delays.
Totally. I remember reading in one of the PID releases that a lot of these records were handwritten,
Oh, yeah.
prone to damage, and sometimes even manipulated.
Of course.
Talk about a recipe for confusion.
Exactly. And SVAMITVA's digital land records, which are built on that foundation of those super precise drone surveys and those unique Bhu-Aadhaar IDs,
Right.
have the potential to completely transform the entire system.
Yeah.
It's a huge leap toward transparency and efficiency.
It's almost like taking this dusty old library and turning it into like a state-of-the-art digital archive.
Zach?
Anyone who's ever dealt with bureaucracy knows how much of a difference that can make.
For sure.
So where do we stand in terms of implementation?
Well,
I feel like there's been a lot of progress already.
oh, absolutely. The PM highlighted that almost 50% of India's 6 lakh villages have already been surveyed by drones since the scheme launched back in 2020.
Wow.
And it's not just about the surveys themselves, it's about integrating this data into this comprehensive system.
Right. So it's about connecting the dots,
Yeah,
creating a digital ecosystem where all this information is like easily accessible and manageable.
exactly.
That's got to be a huge undertaking.
It definitely is, but we're seeing some really positive results. Remember those concerns about data accuracy we talked about earlier?
Uh-huh.
Well, the government is actively working to address those through rigorous quality checks and, getting the community involved.
Okay.
They're making sure that local residents are part of that verification process,
Well, that's good.
which not only improves accuracy, but also helps build trust in the system.
That's a really smart move. Bringing the community on board ensures that, local knowledge is considered.
Yes.
And it minimizes the chances of any errors or oversights. But with such a massive project like this, I'm sure there must be some challenges, right?
Oh, of course.
What are some of the hurdles they might encounter along the way?
Well, one of the key challenges is going to be ensuring equitable access to technology and resources. Not all villages have the same level of, digital literacy or infrastructure.
Right.
So bridging that gap, providing the necessary training and support,
Yeah.
that's going to be crucial for the scheme's success.
It makes sense. It's one thing to have the technology, but it's another to ensure that everyone can actually use it effectively
Exactly.
and reap its benefits.
For sure.
Okay, so access is one thing. What else?
Well, then there's the challenge of actually maintaining these digital records over the long term.
Right.
We need some really robust cybersecurity measures
Okay.
to protect all this valuable data from breaches or manipulation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We're talking about sensitive information about people's property.
Absolutely.
So security has to be a top priority.
It has to be.
It's like building a fortress around this digital treasure.
Yes, and, beyond all the technical aspects,
Hmm.
there's also that human element,
Right.
changing those long-held beliefs and practices around land ownership.
Yeah.
That can take time.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about changing mindsets and fostering a culture of transparency and trust around these new digital systems.
It's a multifaceted challenge
Yeah.
that requires a holistic approach. But, despite all these challenges,
Yeah.
the potential impact of SVAMITVA is just too significant to ignore.
Absolutely. It sounds like we're on the cusp of this major transformation in how India manages its land records.
I think so.
This is something that UPSC aspirants should definitely be keeping an eye on.
Oh, for sure.
Not just for the exams, but for understanding the broader implications for India's development.
Except for those eyeing that mains exam.
Yeah.
SVAMITVA is basically a gold mine of essay and discussion topics. Think about the potential for reducing land disputes, empowering rural communities, boosting financial inclusion, and strengthening local governance.
I can already picture essay questions about, the impact of technology on rural development, the role of property rights in economic growth,
Yeah,
the challenges of implementing these large-scale government initiatives.
absolutely. And for prelims, don't underestimate the importance of understanding the technical aspects of the scheme. Things like knowing how those drone surveys work, what Buadhar represents, and all the key features of that digital land record system.
Right.
That could definitely give you an edge.
It's fascinating how this seemingly simple idea of using drones to map these villages
Yeah,
has opened up so many possibilities and sparked such a wide-ranging conversation.
it's true.
It's a testament to how innovation can really drive positive change.
And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be following all these developments in rural India.
Yeah.
There's a real sense that we're witnessing this paradigm shift, and SVAMITVA is right at the heart of it.
It's truly inspiring to see how technology and policy can really work together
I agree.
to empower communities and unlock economic potential.
It is. And that's why we believe this deep dive has been so valuable for you, our dedicated listeners.
Absolutely. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
There's a wealth of information available on this
for
topic,
sure.
and we encourage you to explore further.
Yes, go deeper.
Don't just stop at understanding what SVAMITVA is. Delve deeper into its implications, its potential, its challenges,
Think critically, ask questions, and form your own well-informed opinions.
because that's what being a successful UPSC aspirant is all about, right?
Exactly.
Well, not just absorbing information,
Yeah,
but processing it, analyzing it, and using it to develop your own insights and perspectives.
absolutely. And as you continue your UPSC journey, remember that every deep dive,
Mhm.
every nugget of knowledge brings you one step closer to achieving those goals.
Speaking of deep dives, we've got one more important thing to cover in this episode, so stay with us. Okay, so we're back and ready to, wrap up this deep dive into the SVAMITVA scheme. We've covered a ton of ground here, from the technology behind the drone surveys to the potential impact on the economy. But before we sign off, I want to bring it back to you, our listeners. What does all of this mean for your UPSC preparations?
Well, this deep dive has given you a really solid foundation on the SVAMITVA scheme.
Hmm.
But as always, don't stop here.
Right.
This is just the jumping off point. As UPSC aspirants, you really need to go beyond just understanding the what and the how.
So it's not enough to just memorize the facts and figures. What else should our listeners be thinking about?
Think critically about the scheme's, potential challenges and opportunities. For example, how can we make sure that the benefits of SVAMITVA are actually reaching marginalized communities and women? How do we address potential issues like data privacy and security?
Those were all really good points. The UPSC examiners aren't just looking for rote memorization. They want to see your ability to analyze, evaluate, and form your own, informed opinions.
Exactly. And remember that SVAMITVA scheme is a dynamic initiative. It's still evolving.
Right.
So stay updated on its progress, read different perspectives, and think about how it connects to broader themes like land governance, rural development, and technological innovation.
Yeah. And to really nail those UPSC answers, You need to connect the dots.
Yes.
Show how this scheme fits into that larger picture of India's development goals.
Absolutely. And here's a final, thought-provoking question to leave you with. What other innovative solutions could be implemented to address those challenges of rural development and unlock even greater economic potential across India?
Hmm, that's a fantastic question to ponder. Keep that in mind as you continue your UPSC preparations.
And if this deep dive into the SVAMITVA scheme has, sparked your interest, we encourage you to hit that subscribe button and give us a like.
We're here to help you navigate that vast ocean of knowledge required for the UPSC exams, one fascinating deep dive at a time.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep striving for excellence.